Oh, Jesus. I was trying to do something cool for like the intro, and that was better. Anyways, this is the 2024 MacBook Air with M3. This is the 15-inch model. I did order a 13, but it didn't come in time. So I went out and picked this one up. 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gig SSD. This is the configuration that I would pretty much always recommend. Maybe if you can get a terabyte, I would do that. But I also asked a question out there, what do you want to know? And we got a few from Instagram and YouTube. And so, yeah, if you're not following us on Instagram or TikTok, go ahead and do that. There's also a hour-long podcast of me and my co-host Hartley talking about the MacBook Air. And so if you haven't, click the link in the description down below and subscribe to the MacRumors Show podcast YouTube channel. Okay, let's unbox and get right into this here so we can answer all of your burning questions on the M3 MacBook Air. Opening the tabs correctly so nobody can yell at me. Obviously, this MacBook Air unboxing isn't going to be anything crazy. Sitting here up top, we got the 13-inch MacBook Air. Let's, for all of you ASMR fans, there's all that goodness. And then I always do this. I always end up ripping. Well, here's for those who like chaos. Anyways, this is the silver model. It is clean. It is classic. It's always going to be good. I have a Starlight one here from last year, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's also kind of grimy and gross. So here, we'll show camera B here. Also pretty fingerprinty. It's not nearly as bad as the M3, but yeah, so, you know, maybe it could be every model. I don't think so, though. This seems pretty normal. And the silver is the classic look. As boring as it might sound, this is probably the better color to go with most of the time if you want something safe. Inside, you get your MagSafe cable. You also have your booklets and stickers as per usual. Here are silver stickers, specifically silver. And then, of course, inside you get your very tiny but very useful 35-watt dual USB-C charger. So you can plug in two different things here. Got an iPhone 15 Pro, and you've got your MacBook on the road with you. You only need this one charger, which is really nice. So real quick, I know I touched on a couple of specs here for this machine, but I kind of wanted to give you a little bit more info. So this is the M3 chip. With that, this configuration specifically has an 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. With the M3 chip, you do get hardware accelerated ray tracing. I do have 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of SSD storage. Again, I think it's important to not go with that base model if you can help it. I know the 8-core CPU and the 8-core GPU is probably enough for most people, maybe even 8 gigs of RAM, though I would still bump up to 16. But 256 storage is a little light in my opinion. Even if you don't think you're going to be doing a lot of downloading of anything, you'll be surprised. Apps are a lot bigger these days. You're still getting that 15.3-inch LED display, 2880 by 1864 with 500 nits of brightness. I like it. It's got everything that you need on it. I know there's the notch there. Doesn't bother me at all. And then in terms of battery, this is by far the battery champ for Macs out there for the most part. You're getting up to 18 hours of movie playback, 15 hours of web. I mean, none of that really means anything to me, but just personally, I've been able to edit videos on here, multiple editing sessions for hours on end, and still have enough. You know, when let's say I'm on a trip, I edit a video, I do some work, 3-hour flight, 3.5-hour flight, I still got plenty of battery to get me through the rest of the workday. It's pretty crazy. You do have your MagSafe port here for charging, and then you could charge via any of the two Thunderbolt 3/USB 4 ports, which are USB-C, and then you have your 3.5mm headphone jack. Okay, so just a couple days ago, we put the question out on Instagram. What do you want to know about the M3 MacBook Air? And so I'm going to do my best to answer as many of these as I can. I have it here up on my phone. So the first question that I have here is it worth getting, or is the next model supposed to get a big change that's worth the wait? And I'm going to say, yes, it's worth getting. And no, I don't think the next model is going to have like a major redesign because we just kind of already got that. We have this new sleek look compared to what we had before with that, you know, that tapered. I did like the taperedness, but I do prefer this design where it's a lot more uniform. It fits the design of the MacBook Pros as well. It's very thin. The display got these thinner bezels. You got the notch now. The only thing that I could see happening that might be something that you would be intrigued on would be mini LED potentially coming to these, and then the MacBook Pros would upgrade to OLED, but I just don't think you're going to get a major redesign. So if you're thinking about getting this, you could get either the M2 or the M3, honestly. And our next question, actually, I kind of already answered that. Is it worth the upgrade from the M2? No. You're going to get some marginal improvements, especially with the GPU. If you're going to be doing a lot of exporting videos, things that would require the GPU, maybe you want to do some gaming and you want it in a smaller form factor. All right, maybe I'd entertain that idea, but I think if you have a pretty well spec'd out M2, 16 gigs of RAM, the 8-core, 10-core GPU, I'd probably just stay with what you got. Should I upgrade if I have the base M1 MacBook Air? Yes, I think so. If you're hitting that point where you are not getting the faster response for your workflow, your computer just can't keep up, definitely upgrade. I think you'll notice a pretty drastic improvement. Also, it just looks a lot different, and it's gonna feel like a bigger upgrade too. Does the new anodization seal help? I don't have the midnight model. I do have one coming. I'll post it on my Twitter, so go follow me there, as well as Instagram. I'll try to put something out there, maybe even an unboxing short on YouTube. So, of course, subscribe so you don't miss that. So from what I've gathered from other people who've had it, I think it helps a little bit, but I think there's still more room for improvement. So it's going to be less fingerprinty, but probably not perfect if that's what you're looking for. So I got a couple of questions that are pretty similar here. Does this make the 14-inch MacBook Pro obsolete? Or I can't decide whether I should get the Pro or the Air. Is it worth upgrading from an M1 Pro? All right. I would say the M1 Pro and M1 Max are probably doing pretty well, to where I don't think you need to spend more money and get a MacBook Air. You're going to be downgrading to coming from a Pro because you're going to be missing some of those peripherals. I'm sorry, not peripherals, some of those I/O ports like HDMI that you might otherwise need. And there's extra USB-C ports that you might want as well. So I would say stick with the MacBook Pro. In terms of the 14-inch MacBook Pro being obsolete, I don't think so. Actually, I think the 14-inch MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air might be the two best options for people. And it kind of classifies you in one of two places here. So one, do you want something lightweight, simple, cheaper, and you don't really need all the ports and you don't need a lot. So you're just doing emails, you're writing up some docs, spreadsheets, maybe some light editing of photos and videos. You can get away with the base model or maybe a little bit more of a beefier 13 or 15-inch MacBook Pro for sure. But then when you want a little bit more headroom, even though it's the same M3 chip, it's still going to run a little bit better. It's a beefier computer. It's going to have that thermal management that's going to be a little bit better as well. And then, of course, the extra ports. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a place for that 14-inch MacBook Pro as well. And of course, maybe you think the 13-inch is a little smaller, 15-inch is a litch bit too big. 14 inches, that sweet spot. So there's definitely a place for it, I think. This next question, how does the SSD speed compare to other Macs? So I have a M2 MacBook Air. This is the 15-inch model as well. And I will run. I'm going to guess they're going to be pretty similar. Now, unfortunately, I do need to clarify that this is fresh out of the box and it's basically got a couple of apps on it. So it should perform better in my opinion, but we'll see here. So I'm going to open up Blackmagic speed test. I got them both ready here. We're going to hit it at the same time. And let's see, what do we got? So we've got the write speed at 2,927, 2,871 on the older one. So very minimal difference here. Yeah, 2,868 on the old M2 model and 2,840, so a little bit less. But then this one's hitting 27. So, I mean, it's going to be the newer SSD that Apple is using. And it's going to be pretty consistently around that 28 to 29 on the write and 28 to 29 on the read. And yeah, so that's what we're getting here. How is it handling two Apple Studio displays? Well, it's actually handling it really, really well. Of course, the biggest thing here is that this model does, in fact, handle two external displays at the same time. However, you have to be in clamshell mode. You got to close that lid. So if you want to work around that, which is actually one of the other questions that I have here, are there any workarounds for dual display limited to clamshell mode? Yes, you can get Display Link Manager. It is software. It does cost some money, but I'll leave it linked in the description down below, or you can just Google search Display Link Manager. and you can get that, and it should be able to give you more options, at least having two displays and this display open at the same time. So is this the best laptop? Yes, the MacBook Air with M2 was my favorite laptop. This is just better. There are no downgrades compared to that model. It's marginally better, so I wouldn't necessarily upgrade from an M2, but definitely M1 or Intel, anything older, for sure you're gonna love this laptop. But I wanna hear from you in the comments down below. What do you think? I'll do some more videos on this later. Oh, I forgot to run Geekbench. If you're curious about Geekbench, I'll put up the scores right now. But of course, let me know in the comments down below what you think of the M3 MacBook Air. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.